We on? Right. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of Barrow Borough Council's Executive Committee. I'm Councillor Derek Brooke. I'm Chair of the Executive. First of all, a reminder for our members taking part in this. It's important you all conduct yourselves in an appropriate manner. Keep your mobile phones on silent. If any member or officer wishes to speak, please raise your hand via the facility in Zoom. And if you're not speaking, keep yourselves on mute. Because if you start speaking, you'll end up showing yourselves on YouTube. Please don't interrupt other speakers. If you lose a connection, we'll adjourn for 10 minutes and see whether we can sort it out. And I remind you all that this is being streamed to thousands and thousands of people on our council's YouTube channel. So behave yourselves. When it comes to a vote, because we can't see everybody properly, we've got Democratic Services will manage the process, and you'll all be requested to unmute and give your vote, and we'll need a proposer and a seconder. That's probably all the formalities, I think. So welcome to the meeting. Let's go. And part one, can the Democratic Services Manager do a roll call and ask for any apologies and substitutes, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors Barlow.
Present.
Biggins.
Present.
Brooke.
Present.
Edwards.
Present.
Hamilton.
Present.
McClure.
Present.
Maddock.
Present.
Morgan.
And
Pemberton.
Present.
Roberts.
Present.
Ronson.
Present.
Thompson.
present.
And Councillor Thompson is subbing for Councillor Blizzard. Officers, Sam Plum.
Present.
Sue Roberts.
Present.
Steph Corden.
Present.
Janice Sharp.
Present. Present.
And Caroline Wagstaff.
Present.
Debbie Storr.
Present.
Helen Houston.
Present.
Michael Barry.
Present.
David Hoffian.
Present.
Thank you very much.
Right, hopefully it'll get a little bit more exciting than this. Agenda item 2, urgent items. We haven't got any, I don't think, have we? No?
No, Chair.
Item 3, delegations. Does anybody wish to move a non-delegated matter to become delegated, or the other way around? Is that right? No? Public and press. Are we okay with the public and press being allowed into the meeting virtually? We don't have any part 2 items on this, do we? Oof. Item 5, declarations of interest. Has anybody got any? You can always say during the course of the report if you forget. Councillor Thompson got her hand up.
Yeah, I've got to declare on the Towns deal. Some part of it mentions women's community matters, so I have to. That's one of my main interests. It is declared on me form.
Okay. Any more? Nope. Item 6, confirmation of the minutes. Do you agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of July 2020 be signed as a correct record when I can get into the town hall to sign them?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right. Item 7, public participation. We have had no requests for anybody to virtually turn up. So we can move on to agenda item 8, which is our town investment plan. And would Michael Barry present the report, please? Ta-da!
Thank you, Chair. So in September 2019, it was confirmed that Barrow and Furness was among 101 towns that would be invited to put forward a town deal through which £25 million of economic development funding could be sought. The case for this investment would need to be articulated through an evidence town investment plan, and development of the plan must be overseen by a town deal board with Barrow Borough Council as a accountable body. The role of the town deal board and these arrangements were discussed at the November 2019 meeting of the executive. The development of the town deal needs to come forward in 2 phases, with the first phase focused on submission of the town investment plan, containing a set of project proposals. And following that, there'll be an opportunity to agree heads of term and to prepare a full business case through which delivery funding could be confirmed. The appended town investment plan was agreed at the meeting of the town deal board on July 24th. The town deal board have promoted an ambitious approach to the preparation of the town investment plan. At the first meeting of the town deal board, it was agreed to create a plan development group responsible for supporting plan development activity, and a communications group responsible for preparing and implementing communications activity. He also agreed that external consultancy support will be procured. Supported by those structures, early in the process, the board was able to confirm a vision for the town deal, this being to build on our economic strengths, rich industrial heritage, natural beauty, sense of community, develop a town that is economically dynamic and diverse, sitting at the forefront of innovation and green growth, and viewed as a great place to live, work, study, visit, and home to a healthy population that can deliver a prosperous, inclusive, and fair future. This vision, in turn, supported the identification of 10 objectives for the plan, which are listed in the report. And supported by engagement activity and a technical appraisal process, these are the basis for defining a series of projects for which funding is being sought through the town investment plan. They are listed in your report and comprise of the Barrow Learning Quarter, which is the creation of a new university campus and skills hub for Barrow, community wellbeing hubs, and Ernsey Bay Outdoor Centre, which is the establishment of a network of community hubs, and new outdoor skills centre of Walney, walking and cycling infrastructure to deliver a transformative programme of walking and cycling improvements across the town, housing renewal programme focused on housing market renewal projects in amongst areas of greatest need, business and enterprise support, so delivering a new programme of business support for Barrow, place development, a focus on a programme of activity to promote the town, together with a programme of events, and Marina Village, which would support the delivery of this key regeneration site. And the intention of these projects as a package were to drive positive change within Barrow, enhancing access to opportunity while also supporting economic growth and the perception of Barrow as a great place to live, work, and visit. For each of these projects, it was considered essential for them to be robustly developed and supported by clear evidence around the benefits and to provide clear evidence around the benefits they can achieve together with their deliverability. To achieve this, a series of strategic outline business cases have been prepared in line with the Green Book. Supporting all this work, the Brilliant Barrow campaign has been a primary platform to engage the community and business voices. And 3 broad phases have been followed in communications activity. First phase focused on awareness raising activity, utilising the hashtag #MyTownsGovernment portal. And through this, 114 unique posts were provided. This phase is also supported by social media analysis and one-to-one engagement with key stakeholders. Second phase focused on the launch of the Brilliant Barrow website and campaign. And what was the focus upon this was trying to capture strategic views on the town and the opportunity for business, but also potential programmes of investment. And through this, 230 individual posts have been received. And the third phase of focused engagement was about the development of project stakeholder plans for each of the 7 projects. And through this, over 592 responses have been received across the projects. I should say the consultation feedback has been broadly supportive and has really assisted in the development of the town investment plan and how these subsequent projects have been scoped and developed. Alongside the town investment plan, I should flag that as part of the government's response to COVID-19, Barrow in Furness has been provisionally allocated an additional £750,000, which must be spent in 2021. This funding is to support economic development activity, and it's proposed that this would be used to support a number of key projects, including the acquisition of key sites to support the development of opportunities within the town centre and a Marina Village, and to revitalise and repurpose key spaces within the town. Going back to the town investment plan, I should flag that while the submission of the town investment plan is a big milestone, it's not the end of the process. We expect that following submission we'll enter into a period of due diligence with government, in which we will be asked to respond to questions and queries about the plan. And our objective is to push for early heads of terms. Heads of terms will be the mechanism through which government will signify which projects it wishes to see further developed. And following this, we would move to prepare full business cases, which in turn will be used to try and unlock delivery funding. To resource the next stage development intended that the organisation lead in specific projects with front fund development activity. This be reimbursed once schemes are contracted and the town deal funding can be accessed. To ensure Barrow Borough Council is ready for projects it's leading on, it is recommended that £100,000 of the Council's financial reserves be allocated to enable critical progress to be maintained. This funding would be eligible for repayment once project funding is in place. Mindful that acting as council body, Barrow Borough Council must also be able to manage effective processes, and within the deal, a further £500,000 has been sought to support the fulfilment of this function. So in terms of recommendations, the Executive Committee has been asked to recommend to full council that it approves the submission of the Barrow-in-Furness Town Investment Plan to MHCG. That subject to agreement of heads of terms, the council provide up to £100,000 to support the development of full business cases required to access delivery funding. This funding will be reimbursed with the receipt of funding to deliver individual projects. Barrow Borough Council takes the role of a counter body for the Barrow-in-Furness Town Investment Plan. And it is noted that £162,019 of grant funding has been fully committed on consultancy services, business case development and community engagement projects. And this has been supplemented by the major projects reserve to a value of £12,660. Subject to the approval of the above, the Executive Committee is also asked to confirm that it authorises the Chief Executive Officer in consultation with the Director of People in Place, the Section 151 Officer, Leader and Chair of the Executive Committee to negotiate heads of terms for the Barrow Town Investment Plan, which will be brought to the Executive for subsequent agreement, and agrees the accelerated town fund provisional grant proposals for Barrow, and to note that they've been agreed by the Section 151 Officer and to submit them to Government by 14th of August 2020 for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you, Michael. Well, it's open to questions. Anyone? Questions or comments? I know we have all heard all this before because we've all been involved through various updates internally, so none of this is unknown to us. Let's have a look. Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just like to point out, we keep calling it the marina development. At the moment, all I see is a housing development. And what are we doing about the marina itself? Is there any finance in the 29 million that we've applied for the actual marina, which is, after all, the end product which we're supposed to be aiming for?
Does anybody want to?
Do you want me to come in for that, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing with the town investment plan is that the initial phase is a 5 to 6 year investment plan that will concentrate on the town's deal and the key developments that have been outlined by Michael. But we are seeing it as a 10 to 15 year economic development strategy for Barrow that includes wider development of the port, which would look at those kind of initiatives, Councillor Pemberton. So this is the first stage. I think if we were looking at an actual marina in Marina Village, we'd need all the 29 million just for that and more besides. So I think getting the housing development and continuing to work with the partners, including ABP Port and others, is really important to the long-term development of that site. And we'll look at it as part of the overall investment plan, which is a much longer vision for the town than this specific funding programme.
Thank you, Sam.
Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. Well, I think this is marvellous. The investment plan is one of the best things we've ever done. I don't think we've ever, and I've been on the council 30 years, we've never, ever done anything as adventurous as this. Never done anything so far-seeing and so absolutely right in tune with what the town needs to do to bring itself forward. But I think it's absolutely miraculous that we've actually got this far to get it actually to an exec and a full council prior to the tight deadline of the 31st of July. I think you know, if we hadn't have Nick Michael, we might have been in serious trouble. But we did make Nick Michael, and he's been absolutely wonderful, as well as all the rest of the officers. And I don't think we can thank our officers enough, because if we get this money, it'll be totally transformable for the town, you know, and taking the people with us on the Brilliant Barrow website, and with all the other investments like the house money for Duke Street, you know, and then the future high streets, which we'll be hearing about later, you know, it could absolutely transform this town and the way people see us in the wider country, you know. So I think just congratulations want to be minuted, you know, to thank all the officers for all the hard work, because without them, we just and all the partners that we've got on board on the town steel board, we would have never got this far. Thank you.
Well, I agree with you, Anne, apart from the bit where you said that we nicked Michael, because this is actually going out on YouTube, and to admit that the council stole someone is a bit dodgy. Can I just confirm to our viewers that we borrowed him from Cumbria County Council and it was agreed? We didn't actually nick him. Next one, Hazel, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, going on from what Anne's saying, I agree with most of what she said. But let's remember that this is government funded, this is government money that we've bid for, and that we are only spending it. Spending it hopefully in the correct way. We've had great detail from you, Michael, on this, but could I ask, if we don't receive the full amount, what are the priority projects?
Councillor, I think what the next step will see the submission of the deal to government, as I said, with our business cases. Government will take a view in those business cases, and they will determine which projects best meet the objectives. They want to make sure projects are robust and deliverable. I think straight away there will be a process where we will need to satisfy government that our projects are robust, and I think because we've done full business cases, I would like to think we can achieve that. If there is pushback, I think there will be a further decision will be required about what are the priorities for the deal. Each of the projects, I won't say each, but most of the projects are scalable. Decisions can be made around how projects can be scaled in response to challenges. But at this stage, we feel it's a well-balanced deal, and the projects have been structured in a way that are deliverable, impactful, and hopefully will impress the government around that.
Thank you.
Councillor McClure, I think, is the only one with hand up still, I think. Oops. Wendy? Oops. Why is that not?
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the 750,000 and the acquisition of key sites, who decides on those key sites and the cost that will actually be paid for them?
Sam, do you want to? Oh, I can't see everybody now. Steph's going to reply.
Yeah, it will be a decision by in consultation with the 151 officer, and it'll probably be commercially sensitive and a part 2 for the exec committee.
Do you have any properties in mind at the moment?
It's probably not appropriate to say at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm not asking which ones, I'm just saying, do you have anything in mind?
There are some in the town that have been looked at, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, we can't afford to be like Manchester United in the transfer window and mention places and then the price goes through the roof. We've got to be realistic here. Lee?
Thanks, Chair. I want to echo what Anne said about thanking everyone involved, its officers. I took on the town steel board and experienced the enthusiasm for all the partners, so for BE and the third sector, and I hope that'll continue beyond this bid, that they'll be interested in shaping the town and contributing to improving the town. The bid itself, it's ambitious, but it's also, the projects are all connected, which is the way they shaped through the planning in the individual projects, they're all connected. And I think they do address the generational issues of the town, like health inequalities and community wealth, where the wealth wasn't always shared out as much as it should, and people access jobs and skills. So that's why it's ambitious, because the positive impact would be huge. The other thing that I want to mention is the fact that when obviously the projects were all devised and schemed up before the COVID crisis, but when they've been assessed with COVID recovery in mind, there's hardly any changes needed, which to me indicates how they were right in the first place. They were addressing the correct things in the correct way. And I think it is mentioned in the report, but an important aspect for me is putting the resident, it sounds obvious, but putting the resident at the centre of everything we do. So how we deliver services. And it's a different way to look at it. And all these projects address that and look to achieve that. So I want to thank everyone for the work. And I think we're right to be ambitious, because the impact this bid could have would be enormous, and it would affect every resident, and it would be resilient as well. I think it would change things for the long term, not just for the short term, when we get one sort of shot of money. So just want to echo the thanks, really. And I think it's really, really fantastic scheme.
Mute myself. I can't see anyone else with a hand up. So I think we can go to the recommendations, can we? Yeah, nobody else wants to speak?
Yeah, could we have a move and a seconder, please?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Thank you. The motion has been moved by Councillor Barlow and seconded by Councillor Roberts. Please reply with for, against or abstain. Councillor Barlow.
For.
Biggins.
For.
Brooke.
For.
Edwards.
For.
Hamilton.
For.
McClure. Maddox.
For.
Morgan.
For.
Pemberton.
For.
Roberts.
For.
Ronson.
For.
Thompson.
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Splendid. Right, where are we now? That's one. Agenda item 9. The High Street Fund business case submission. So over to Dave Hoffian, I think, are we? And is Helen Houston, is it? Are they both doing it? It's all yours.
Thank you, Chair. So following on from the very positive paper that Michael brought forward with the Towns deal, I think this paper is also very encouraging and exciting for the town, in the sense that following a successful expression of interest by Barbara Council into the Future High Street Fund, which again is a government fund which just over 100 councils have bid into, and it's a competitive process. We are now in a position whereby we are just finalising the business case to be submitted to government by the end of this month. And a number of members I know have been heavily involved in the development of the proposals that are covered in the business case. And Barbara Council are bidding into this with a business case that's circa £25 million, which will have a really big impact in Barrow Town Centre and help support the transformation of the town. The projects within the business case are set out within the paper, and they can be summarised as rejuvenating and renovating the Barrow Indoor Market, transforming the town hall into once again at the civic centre of the town, and being able to host events and weddings in there as well. The transformation as well of the town square at the south of the town hall, and also a range of public realm improvements and improvements to public transport provision as well through upgraded transport hub. Now, within the proposal, you'll see that because we've got a number of sub-projects, we have looked at the delivery mechanism for the scheme, and it's proposed that Barrow Borough Council will lead on the delivery, if successful, the business case is successful, on the town hall project, and also the delivery of the indoor market. But Cumbria County Council would lead on the delivery of the public realm and highways improvements, because that's just to fit really with the strengths of each authority. And also you'll see within the actual business case document here, which I'm sharing with you, that it also sets out the governance arrangements for the project, which is very similar to some of the governance arrangements which were set up in the previous paper for the town deal. So it's proposed that at the end of this month, we'll submit the business case to government, and very similar to the town deal, we do expect government to come back with a number of questions and queries, which we'll respond to, and we're expecting a funding decision in the autumn time. So what I've set out in terms of recommendations within this report is that delegated authority be given to the Director of People and Place in consultation with the Chief Exec, Director of Resources and the Leader of the Council to submit the business case for Barrow Future High Street Fund based on the proposals outlined in this particular report. And if the bid is successful, the council will also provide up to £1 million of co-funding to invest in the Future High Street Fund project. But the funding will be repaid from whether it be income generation activities or reductions in existing subsidies. Furthermore, if the bid is successful, that the council agree to include up to £25 million of funding into its capital programme from 2020 to 2021. And that Barrow Borough Council would act as the accountable body for that funding. The report's also noting that £150,000 of grant funding has been received to date to help develop the business case, and that this was supplemented by a sum of £4,330 from the project's reserve. And finally, that we authorise the Chief Executive in consultation with Director of Resources, the Leader and Chair of Executive Committee to enter into a grant funding agreement with MHCLG subject to a successful funding bid. But I'm happy to answer any questions that the Executive Committee may have.
All right, thanks, David. Again, we've all had an opportunity to take part in this several times over the last couple of months in this strange world that we live in. So it's open to questions, and Councillor Edwards. Yeah.
Okay. Presuming that we received the full amount that we're asking for, can you tell me how the money will be divided between these projects? We've had it in great detail from the town's deal. Could you possibly give us the breakdown in these 4 projects as well? And could I ask, how does this scheme support the private investor? More importantly, jobs. How many jobs will this bring into the area? You must have looked into that, because in the documentation that we have to look into, it says that we expect projects to be co-funded by public and private sector. Have we taken cognizance of that? Because they're going to take that into consideration.
I'm happy to try and answer those questions. In terms of the breakdown, yes, so we're still refining the exact cost envelope for the schemes, but in terms of a rough breakdown, the highest proportion of funding is going towards the indoor market, partly because of the fact that the indoor market is a very large facility, but also brings about a number of wider benefits in terms of being able to provide an alternative offer in the actual town, with new traders and existing traders being hosted within there. So that's the highest proportion of funding. And then in terms of the public realm, again, there's quite a significant proportion of funding towards the funding of the public realm, purely because of the larger area that's being covered by that. And I think to support one of your other questions have been, how does this support with the private sector, is that we recognise, particularly at the south of the town hall, that there's a lot of opportunities with the further redevelopment of the area around the town hall, and that the public realm works that are proposed, particularly around Cornwallis Street and Market Street, will provide a real boost to that area and help support redevelopment of that area, as we've seen happen in a number of towns before. And then probably the smallest proportion, if I'm honest, is towards the town hall, purely because the town hall being a Grade 2 listed building, you're very limited as to what you can do in terms of physical works to the town hall. And it's more about ensuring that the town hall is fit for purpose for hosting events, and it's more around putting in partitions and enhancing the building within the strict guidelines that are set by the likes of Historic England. In terms of jobs, we have looked at the potential not only for job creation, but also for supporting the wider private sector. In terms of jobs, the actual proposals itself are not necessarily looking at direct job creation, but it's more around supporting wider economic benefit in the town. In particular, Future High Street Fund is all about ensuring that we're actually bringing more people into the town centre and bringing more activities into the town centre. So it's providing an alternative offer to what you've already got within the town, rather than more of the same type of activity. And so what we've looked at is around the potential for visitors coming into the town, but also for those who are living in the town, to give them other reasons to come into the town centre, whether that be to go to events that are held in the town square, or to go into the indoor market and see the new stalls and new activities that are hosted there. But also that then has the added benefit of supporting other streets within the town, because it's going to provide more people coming into the town centre who will then utilise the other stores and facilities that are in the town centre itself.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. Well, I like the way that both these Townsdeal and the Future High Street meld together and become like one complete package for the town, which will transform it. I think the officers have done a wonderful job on this. I can't thank them enough, all the officers that have worked on these deals, how they've done it with COVID, you know, when half of them have been working at home and everything, you know, it's been absolutely wonderful how they've all worked and how they've managed to do it. And you can only say, you know, if we hadn't had Zoom, I suppose we'd be living in a different world. But I can't see how this won't promote jobs and how it won't promote the town. We've always said we want to utilise the town hall more, because it's the most beautiful building in the borough, you know, and we need to utilise it. We need to get people in there to see. We've got so many hidden treasures that are not that have not been on view for years, you know, and we need to be showing these treasures to people. We want people to feel involved, that it's not just a place where they go to sort the council tax out, or to moan about housing, or, you know, to moan about how much, you know, rubbish is in the back streets and the bins haven't been collected. We want them to use that building as as how it should be used as a public hub where people can come and congregate and see things and, you know, take real pride in what is the Julie Barrow in Furness, our town hall. You know, and I can't thank the officers enough for doing such hard work on this. And I'm sure at the end of the day, hopefully we'll get our reward, and then we can go on forward and march on to transform our town that we all love. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hamilton, I think.
I think
sorry.
Councillor Maddox.
Hang on. Sorry, Councillor. Sorry, John. What?
Yeah. Councillor Hamilton's indicated he wishes to speak along with Councillor Maddox.
Yeah, Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Maddox, please.
Just to echo what Anne was saying, she got in before me. I've been very, very lucky with being a mayor these last 18 months or whatever. And the choose of the town hall for the kids, let alone the kids, for the parents as well. Because we don't realise what we've got in there, in the town hall. Absolutely. There's history in there to show where we're coming from. We're just thinking about we're talking about weddings and whatever. Halloween nights, what we used to have, and everything there. And it'd be fantastic for the visitors coming as well. When we did have the visitors, of course, before coronavirus, that's what they wanted to do, have tours of the town hall. And if we can make that the gem as we can, because we've got the experts with the officers and everything else, it'd absolutely be fantastic. Because every time I've had someone coming in there from a different council, they can't get over what's in that town hall. Absolutely spellbound. Just thinking on Chair. And if we can do it properly and we can make every service go in there, including some of the county council services, to make it a one-stop shop, what a gem it would be. Thank you.
Right. Wendy?
I would like to ask about the rail and road structure. Is there any chance that we can get our railway electrified? I know they say we can't do it because we've got tunnels, but they are trying to do this. It was on the television the other day. They're trying to do it, I think it's up to Huddersfield. They've got tunnels up there. So why can't we be electrified? We used to be able to get trains direct to London. And now we're bloody lucky if we can get to Lancaster without a train being cancelled or anything like that. It really annoys me that we are not using our rail structure like we should do. Also, the roads. Why can't we get our roads made a bit wider? I mean, we've had accident after accident, people killed on them roads. Surely some of them are wide enough. We can buy land off the farmers to make them more into like dual carriages, more dual carriageways, because we're at a dead end. We're right at the end of, well, you fall off if you go any further. And I think we need to push this. We're losing shops in the town. The town is dead. I tell you, I won't be going into Barrow very often now because Marks and Spencer's has gone, Thornton's has gone, all the other shops have gone. It is getting dreadful. And to be quite honest, I'm quite ashamed of the state of Barrow at the moment. Thank you. Admiral.
Right, well, I must say most of that had nothing to do with the agenda item, Wendy. And the whole point of this bid is to make the town centre more interesting and exciting for people to visit, because we're not going to recreate Barrow of the 1970s and 1980s where they were all shops. That's just not going to happen. So I look forward to the day when we've got our university campus, loads of young people here, and we've got Dua Lipa and Mabel on in the town hall and out the back. So I can't remember if anybody else has got the hand up.
Councillor Roberts.
Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to refer back to Councillor Edwards' comments about jobs and basically, I think, businesses. The plans for the market would include aspirations for that to be an incubator of new businesses and an easy way for businesses to trial their marketplace before they take the plunge and the expense of moving into expensive rented premises. And So it would enhance the businesses, and the whole scheme, all 4 projects is about attracting people to the town centre and keeping them there for longer, which would benefit all the businesses that are there and any new ones that may come along. The other aspect of it really is the fact that the consultation we've done has borne that out as well. Retail, and especially national retailers, featured very low on the list. People want other things of the town centre. So through the public consultation, it's actually, we've arrived at these projects, and it would, when it's shown on a map, not only does it link in well with the town steel bid we've just heard about, also just on its own, these projects help provide like a circuit to the town, which includes all the other streets, which the high street, I mean, it's called the high street, but it means the town centre really. It's all it's the main Dalton Road and all the other shopping areas off Dalton Road. It would bring people into using that as a circuit and accessing the town more. So I think from a business and economy point of view, it goes in the right direction, and it actually is completely in line with the public consultation.
I can't see anyone else waiting to speak, can I? I don't think.
No.
So unless David or Helen wants to reply generally to all that, or we just go straight to the recommendations? No? Right, can we, do we? No? Right, what have I got to do here now then? Can I seek a mover and a seconder for the recommendations?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
And can we take a roll call, please?
Yes, the motion has been moved by Councillor Roberts and seconded by Councillor Barlow. Please reply with for, against or abstain. Councillors Barlow.
For.
Biggins.
For.
Brooke.
For.
Edwards.
For.
Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton.
For.
McClure. Maddox. Morgan. Pemberton. Roberts. Councillor Roberts.
I think he's frozen.
He seems to have temporarily frozen.
He does, doesn't he? Councillor Ronson.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
It looks as though he's alive again now. Councillor Roberts, for or against? Can you hear us? No. Can I vote for him?
No. That's carried anyhow, Chair.
What is this democracy like? Oh, there he is. For.
That's unanimous.
Hooray. Right. Agenda item 10, homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 20. Oh, this has got an extra row on my bit of paper here. 2020 to 2025. So Jan and Caroline, whichever one of you is doing the report, please.
Caroline, you just need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, unmute. Thank you, Chair. The Homeless Act 2002 places a duty on the local authority to carry out a review of homelessness and also publish the strategy. In taking the review of the strategy, we've taken consideration to the Homeless Reduction Act 2017. It was one of the biggest pieces of legislation around homelessness in many years. So it was relevant that we did the review at this time. The strategy outlines the changes and the challenges we're facing in the borough with homelessness, how we develop the strategy, what our priorities are going to be, and how we will achieve the priorities. The key priorities that we're wanting to be in line with for the Homeless Reduction Act have been identified within the report, but it's to ensure people are well informed about the housing options, to prevent people from becoming homeless, to assist people as soon as possible if they do become homeless, so that we can be securing sufficient accommodation and support for them, and to support people to recover from their experience and to maintain accommodation going forward, and to enable people to secure homes that they can afford and maintain. We have carried out quite an extensive consultation as part of the Homeless Review, and that involves stakeholders across the borough, which is statutory and non-statutory, and also we've provided vital feedback from service users about their experience of accessing the service with Barrow Council. And that really is the key aims of the strategy and the report, and that we would welcome the recommendations noted and taken forward as part of the Council's policy framework. Is there any questions?
Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, obviously we've got to have a strategy on this, and it looks like a good one. But looking at the national figures for us, could I ask you, 2019, we only had 3, according to the national figures, 3 people who were sleeping rough. We have none in the previous 2 years. Does that tie in with your figures? The government says that there's 15,000 nationally at risk, and that's why they've put this 85 million new funding in. Reading the report, it doesn't say that we've got a massive problem. Nevertheless, I agree with the report, and I agree that we need a strategy. But could you tell me whether these national figures that I've got here are correct according to your figures?
Yeah, I think I point out that in Barrow we are particularly lucky that we don't have a huge problem with rough sleeping, as in people actually sleeping on the streets. And when they do the rough sleep account, which is an annual count which is fed back to government, it's a snapshot across all agencies on one particular night when the count is conducted. The problem that we have in Barrow, more so than actual rough sleeping on the street, is sofa surfing, and that is the hidden homelessness problem, whereby people are sleeping on people's sofas in a room in a house, which isn't ideal because obviously at some point that will become broken down, and particularly that's been relevant throughout COVID, because obviously people cannot sleep and stay in households if they're showing symptoms. So we have seen presentations that have rose. But on the night of the last rough sleep account, that was identified that there was 3 rough sleepers in Barrow, which is predominantly different from the previous rough sleep account, which was 0.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Hamilton.
Oh, I'm free, mate. I don't know how to work this thing. I'm a Luddite. Can I actually just say thank you to our staff in there, in the homeless side, Zoe, Debbie, Katie, Laura, and then not forget what's going on there. We have 2 vacant posts as well, and it just shows you how they work. Absolutely fantastic, and I know it's hard to believe when you've gone up 300% with 3 people rough sleeping, but it just shows you what staff we've got in there, and I include it all the time now. Absolutely magnificent, so well done.
Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. I guess I'm beginning to think that you'll be glad I'm not sub at every meeting the way I talk. But anyway, I'd just like to thank the Housing Department myself on behalf of Women's Community Matters, because to be honest, they've been wonderful during the COVID. We've had some, you know, tremendous problems, and they've always been there to help us. I just wanted to ask Carolyn a question as well. If we see rough sleepers and we know they're there, do we offer them accommodation? I know some don't want it, but do we try our hardest to offer them accommodation?
What we do is if we see anybody that's in, say, Portland Walk or they're out on the street, then one of our officers will go up and speak to them. We have found within Barrow that some of the people that have been in doorways when we've gone to speak to them have actually got accommodation. Throughout COVID, the legislation hasn't been taken as we normally would work to in terms of homelessness law, and anybody who's presented because of the infection, and obviously we don't want people out or put at any risk, everybody that's presented throughout COVID has been given temporary accommodation, and we've worked with them to obviously provide that accommodation, but to also move them on to more secure accommodation. We also, as part of the homeless legislation, have the duty to refer process, and our staff have worked really, really hard with that. And during the COVID, we've developed a protocol with Morecambe Bay Health to try and get that embedded further throughout Furness General, so that we're not getting people discharged from the hospital to no fixed abode or turning up at the last minute in reception. And obviously, because the building is closed, we have worked tirelessly really with Furness General about discharges. So yeah, it has been a great team effort.
Oh, thanks, Karen. I don't think people actually realise what's going on in the background of a council, do they really? I know a lot of, when I've been on national calls, we're lucky really, because a lot of councils have put up homeless people in hotels, and once the funding stops, they're just going to kick them back out again, because if the funding doesn't continue. So luckily we haven't been put in that position, because that would have been heartbreaking if we'd have put homeless people up and then said, oh, sorry, the funding's gone, go.
Well, we have been very lucky, because obviously in Barrow we are quite unique, but we have got our own stock. So as presentations have come forward, we have very quickly set up further temporary accommodation to be able to keep a wheel turning, so to speak, in COVID. But again, I must thank our team. Our caretaking unit have helped people move on, got people into accommodation, secure accommodation, so that we've freed up temporary accommodation. So it has been a great team effort, but homelessness doesn't stop. It's night and day, 24 hours. So the team are on call, and we have had to follow it through and then move people on. So it is a credit to them, really.
Yeah, I think as a councillor, I think sometimes we get used to things and we kind of forget ourselves that housing isn't just because we've got a few council houses. We actually do a lot more than that, and I think we kind of forget that sometimes. Has anybody else got any questions? Or can we? I need to have a mover and seconder to approve the recommendation, which is to basically accept the report and include it in the council's policy framework. Have I got a proposer, please?
I'll move it, Chair.
Seconder? Somebody seconded that, but I didn't hear it. Where?
It was Councillor Barlow.
But all right, okay. So another exciting roll call, John. Go for it.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The motion has been moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Barlow. Please reply with for, against, or abstain. Councillors Barlow?
For.
Biggins?
For.
Brooke?
For.
Edwards?
For.
Hamilton?
For.
McClure?
For.
Maddox?
For.
Morgan?
For.
Pemberton?
For.
Roberts?
For.
Ronson? Councillor Ronson?
For.
Thompson.
Oh.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Right, whizzing on now to agenda item 11, Business and Planning Act, which it says on here, Debbie Starr is going to do. Debbie, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is just to raise members' awareness of the Business and Planning Act, to 2020. It was actually introduced and implemented with effect from the 22nd of July. So it was originally anticipated to come out on the 20th, but it was actually made legislation on the 22nd of July. The council has had to respond very quickly in terms of putting in place provisions. The Act introduced a streamlined process which allows a licence holder to place removable furniture such as tables and chairs on the paved highway adjacent to their premises. The timescale for dealing with applications is very tight. There is a 7-day consultation period followed by which the decision must be made within 7 days. And if a decision is failed to be determined, then it's deemed to be granted. The licenses cannot last beyond the 30th of September 2021, and there's criteria to be taken into account. In the final version of the legislation, there was 2 mandatory conditions that came out of that. One was around accessibility and ensuring that there's appropriate access along the pavements and footpaths for those disadvantaged in terms of accessibility, and another one that if there was smoking, there needed to be smoke-free areas as well. So there are 2 national conditions which runs alongside the standard conditions that the authorities have been discussing locally. So the recommendations are as set out on the report, to note the fee being charged and the process, that because the Act was implemented immediately, we're dealing with initial powers under the powers that was approved by Council last month. But we're also to formalise arrangements and asking members to confirm that delegated authority is given to the Licensing Regulatory Committee to put the terms of reference of payment licences within their terms of reference where not otherwise delegated to officers. And it's also proposed that whilst there's no statutory right of appeal against the determination of licences, it's been proposed that there is an internal review process whereby if an application is refused or there's a dispute in terms of any revocation later on down the line, that be reviewed by a subcommittee of the licensing committee, and therefore the recommendations to council are to put the relevant terms of reference and functions within the constitution.
Right, thanks, Debbie.
Just to confirm, the Licensing Regulatory Committee did consider a report on the subject at their meeting last week and noted and approved the recommendations.
Okay. Councillor Edwards.
You know exactly what I'm going to say on this one. I think it's absolutely disgraceful, disgusting that the council is doing this. Considering the amounts of money that you've been given from this government, it's a minimum amount to allow to pay businesses for this licence. I understand the bid have even stepped in and are paying 10 of them. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. The government recommended that £100 was the maximum. And what have we done? Gone for the maximum. I think it's absolutely dreadful. In the scale of things, it's peanuts, and we could help all businesses in the town to be able to put tables and chairs outside and attract people into their shops.
Anyone?
Councillor Hamilton wishes to speak.
Councillor Hamilton. Yeah.
I must apologise, Chair, because someone sitting next door and they rambling away. if it's done away with the minimum payment width, because it used to be the way we used to operate under the county council when we used to do the cafes and whatever, the minimum payment width was 2,000 millimetres, 6'6", and the bare in the exceptional cases went down to 3'2". When we're giving out licences, there is such a thing as a minimum payment width, UK. No.
I have no idea. Anybody reply to that? I don't know anything about it.
I think
Graham.
Graham possibly
Graham.
answer that.
Yeah, I'm not aware. I'm not aware on how to raise my hand. Councillor Hamilton, one of the two mandatory conditions is around the minimum width that you're talking about, the pavement width. So that's taken care of nationally. Cumbria Highways have advised, the county highways have advised a smaller distance, a shorter distance width, and that's around because this is a temporary measure. So nationally, I think it's 2 metres clearance. This is for what's called mobility inclusive condition, but for this short-term measure. So these licenses are only going to last just over a year, just whilst we're in this period. The county have advised a smaller distance, a shorter distance, as long as it doesn't cause an obstruction, then they'd be in favour of granting. The county council are a statutory consultee in this. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
I'm happy, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I just wish to point out that the cost of the council of processing applications is £168. So I think it's very fair for both council and businesses to bear some of the costs, because each is taking covering the costs as much as they can. It's capped at 100, so for every application, £68 coming out of our funding. I don't think it's true that the government have been generous to cover the COVID emergency funding. The LGA and the District Council Network are lobbying the government because they're worried about recovering costs that councils are having to put into the recovery process. It's not over yet. We don't know what's coming, and we don't know what funding will be recycled back from government. So I think that's fair, £100 fair, because the council and the business are both paying an amount to get this rolling. It also means that businesses have to consider if it would be appropriate for their business as well, rather than just take a punt, and if they want to do it, do it. The other thing I want to say, I'm pretty sure it's well established that officer time has been spent engaging with businesses for this and other matters, for events that have gone on already. So officer time is spent doing this as well, and that's a factor that doesn't come into the licensing cost.
I can't see anyone else with their hands up. No. Okay. Right. Well, let's move to. Is there a mover for the recommendations?
I'll move it.
Is there a second there? Take a roll call then, I guess. Last one.
Thank you, Chair. The motion has been moved by Councillor Maddox and seconded by Councillor Barlow. Please reply with for, against, or abstain. Councillors Barlow.
For.
Biggins.
For.
Brooke.
For.
Edwards.
Abstain.
Hamilton.
For.
McClure.
Abstain.
Maddox.
For.
Morgan.
For.
Pemberton.
Abstain.
Roberts.
For.
Ronson.
Abstain.
Thompson.
For.
That's carried 8-4 with 4 abstentions.
Well, that was exciting. Goodness me, we finished. Have we finished?
Yes, Chair.
Goodness me. It's only 3:05. Splendid. Me and F will be able to go out and have a scoot round.